Hello and welcome back to the Irish Billionaire Experiment. What if a billionaire invested in Ireland? This is part 4 and it's the final part that we're going to be doing. We've gone 10 years in the future since last time and now let's see exactly what has happened. Before we do get into this though, I do want to just bring your attention to a vote we're going to be doing for the next country. Now, as I said for the last episode, we need to have another vote on what's going to happen next. So the next country, it should come up in the top right corner now. There'll be a little vote between Greece, India, Iceland and Scotland for which country we are going to be doing next. Of course, all of these have different aims. For example, Greece, could we try and get Greece to win the European Championships again? India, could we get India to become one of the best leagues in the world? You know, the I-League is relatively new. Could we get that to become one of the best leagues in the world? Iceland, again, they're doing amazing stuff internationally. Can we try and continue that, get them to win a World Cup, for example? And then Scotland, of course, because wouldn't it be interesting to see if the Scottish Premier Division could get better than the English Premier Division? So they're your choices. There's not going to be immediate. You've got a week to vote on this. In between this experiment and the next Billionaire experiment, we're going to do something slightly different. Still within the same lines, but that's going to be out tomorrow. That's going to be based in the United States, that experiment. So that's what we've got coming up next for you. So you've got a week from today, which is Saturday. So next Saturday until 6 p.m, you've got time to vote on this. So you've got a little while now. So let's get right into this then. Let's see what's happened. As you can see here, things have happened quite substantially. We'll look at past winners quickly, actually, just see what's happened. And, last time you were here, St. Pat's won it for the first time since 2013 after Cork City dominated. After that, Cork City once again dominated for the next 5 years before St. Pat's Athletic won it for the next 4 years in a row. And then Dundalk, after coming second nearly every single time for the last 10 years or so, finally won the league. So we'll look deep into it now and see what's happened. As you can see, Cork City must have dropped off quite a bit when they've lost the title here. 2 third finishes and then dropping off completely. So what happened to Cork? That'll be interesting. If we look at the overview though, look at stages. We'll go to league table obviously and go to the 2030 division because last time we were at 2029. Cork and Dundalk finishing first and second, getting the Champions League spots. St. Pat's in third. 2031 then, obviously Cork winning it again, only losing the one game that season. Waterford being promoted, then relegated straight away. The teams that get promoted seem to go down straight away. It doesn't seem to be much change really. Shamrock Rovers down 6th. Really unimpressive them actually. I thought they'd do a lot better, but they've not really done anything at all, which is a bit unfortunate. Athlone Town, the one getting promoted that season, now being relegated again. So you're sort of seeing yo-yos between teams getting promoted and relegated and sort of the same top 3, top 4 type teams. I mean, it doesn't even change that next season at all. Finn Harps getting promoted that season though, and Galway United getting relegated. So actually that does go against what I just said, so you can slate me for that if you want. 34th season, Cork City winning it once again, obviously. Was this their last season that I think they won it? That was the last season they won it. Then they went down to 3rd, losing 9 games that season, finishing level on points with Dundalk actually, but superior goal difference to Dundalk. Season afterwards, Cork once again and finishing in 3rd. St. Pat's winning it once again, quite substantially as well actually, if we say that. Won it by a long way. And then Cork finished 4th this next season, so they're on a bit of a demise now. I wonder what happened, because they were the ones that spent so much money. They literally spent ridiculous amounts. This time, not even finishing in the European places, finishing 6th in the 2038 season. That is really poor from them. St. Pat's winning it once again. That's the last time they won it, or yeah, it was the last time they won it. And the season we just had, Dundalk won it just by a single point from St. Pat's. So it's becoming more and more competitive, you could say. St. Pat's getting the Champions League spot, but Derry, Bohemians and Shamrock Rovers getting the Europa League places, and Cork City finishing down in 7th this time. Really not doing very well. I wonder what's happened to them. I mean, has all the money gone or something like that? That's what I'm interested in now. If we look at the club details, financially, they've still got a fair bit of money, if we're being honest. They've still got, well, I say fair bit, it's 8 million compared to the billion that they once had. So I guess they have just spent all their money. As you can see here, they've got a new stadium, a 20,000 seat stadium. We'll have a look at the stadiums as well now, because that's something someone asked for as well. Stadiums then. Aviva Stadium, that's the Irish rugby one actually, that isn't it? So Dundalk playing there. I don't know if they played there originally or not, but that's where they're playing. Cork built their new 19,000 seater stadium, which is pretty cool. And then the other ones, I don't know if they've built new ones, because they look like real names. Like when you get a new stadium, it's often called something like Cork City Stadium and things like that. So I don't think these ones have built new stadiums. Perhaps Bohemians may have done. When was that built? 1901, so they've not built a new one. So yeah, that is interesting to see that Cork City at least built a new stadium with all the money that they had. So at least one team has. Right, let's look at some transfers then, because that's going to be pretty interesting. Go back to 2030 season. Cork City spending absolutely insane amounts of money there. Spending a lot of money on this regen here from Chelsea. For 62 million, is he worth it? I mean, he doesn't even look that good, if we're being honest with ourselves here. He's obviously 32 now, but I say that, he's had a very good career. He was let go for pennies compared to what he was bought for by Chelsea. Barely played at Chelsea actually, and really didn't play that much at Cork, to be fair. I guess he played one full season, then moved in January there to Fiorentina, so he can't have been that good really looking down there. Any of the names that I recognise? Ben Woodburn's there, but he's retired now obviously, so we're getting to the days where the regens are here now, and just we don't recognise any of these names now, but the teams they're coming from, all to Cork City basically, and for a lot of money, 31 million being spent there, for example. That's great. 27 there in the season afterwards from Liverpool, a player that Marcus Nyambi, again I presume his regens and things like that. If we go forward once again, this time this is the first season we've seen Cork City not actually spending any money. They spend 4 million there on a player called Neto, but other than that, it's Dundalk now who are starting to spend the money. Victor Andre from Brentford to Dundalk, 14 million. What a transfer that is. And then St. Pat's now starting to spend a bit more money. Obviously, nothing near the amount that Cork City was spending when they used to be spending huge amounts of money. But Cork really not buying anyone. They're selling a few players now as well. So this is the start of their demise, I think. St. Pat's once again buying players, but Cork City selling a lot of their players for not all that much money, really. So I guess they really started getting some bad money trouble. The season afterwards, St. Pat's once again spending big. It's big for the division, I suppose. Not big compared to what Cork's spending once again, but Cork once again offloading players, not bringing anyone in by looks of things. So they must have had some real issues here. St. Pat's are the one team now that are starting to... Well, I say that. It's a whole mix of teams now. St. Pat's are the biggest spenders. But Sligo Rovers are there, Shamrock are there, Derry are there, Dundalk are there, Galway are there, but not Cork. So it's all been petered down a little bit now, and it's not been... Perhaps transfers aren't that important, perhaps it's all youth recruitment and things like that. Once again, nothing happening there. And again, the biggest transfers now seem to be leaving Ireland, not coming into Ireland, which is very interesting how it's all turned out. Shamrock Rovers look like they're the biggest spenders this past season, so... Really interesting stuff that actually, perhaps all the money's just run out now and that's it. They can't do anything else. I guess this is sort of reflected as well in the continental competition rankings and things like that. That doesn't show us too much more, but it fluctuates a lot. 2036, the Irish Premier Division was down to 22nd, but 2 years later it's up to 11th and is now sitting at 14th. So real interesting stuff there. Let's have a look now at some teams and see what they've done. We'll start with Cork City at the start of their reign. We'll go to their schedule. We'll go all the way back to the 2030 season, and we can actually... I mean, I don't know why I didn't do this before, but someone told me to do this. Use the filters rather than scroll through everything. So let's have a look at this instead. That makes it a lot more easier to see. So back to the 2030 season. Now, of course, because in Ireland, the division is different. It goes from different points of the year to the English one, for example. So the Irish season's in 1 calendar year, whereas like the English one is over 2 calendar years. So that's why this sort of messes up. So at the end of the 2039 season, they got to the quarterfinals of the Europa Cup, which is pretty cool. So for 2030 season, then they did get into the Champions League, winning the league there, but got knocked out in the best place playoffs and went into the Euro Cup instead against Bordeaux, Valencia, Bates, and no one else. It's just those three, isn't it? Did pretty well, got through into the knockout stage, second knockout round, lost to Valencia, which is the team they played, isn't it, in the league, and won one, lost one in there, but didn't overcome them in the second leg. Season after, we went straight into the Champions League, which I guess means once they've now won the league, they go straight into the Champions League group stages, which is pretty cool. However, nothing really happened there, losing to Real Madrid twice, beating Real once and beating Zenit once, but a loss and a draw wasn't good enough. They may have put them into the Europa League, though. It did, by looks of things, though. They beat Anderlecht and they beat Anderlecht to go up against Lyon, but lost to Lyon, unfortunately. So went back into the Champions League group stages for the next season, but lost all their games against a pretty tough group of Roma, Man United, Bayern Munich, but lost that, unfortunately. And then the season afterwards, there's nothing there. So I guess they must have had some financial issues there. That's probably where it starts, because if they're not in anything, that must mean they've got financial issues, financial fair play issues, which meant for the 2034 season, they were in the Champions League once again for winning the league, but didn't get through. 3 draws, 3 losses wouldn't be enough. And I think that is where it all stops, actually. They get there, so they must have won the Cup 1 year round as well. I think they must have won the Cup 1 year, because in the 2036 season, they're in the Euro Cup, but didn't do anything. They couldn't beat Zerka, which is a bit unfortunate for them. And again, must have won the Cup again, I think, because they've not finished in the European places. They must be winning the Cup, for example. They beat Partick Thistle, but lose to RZ, unfortunately. And then the season we've just had, nothing's happened. And that is the demise of Cork City, from Champions League group stage competition teams to now can't even finish in the top 5, which is really unfortunate. Right, let's do the same thing then for St Pat's Athletic in the 2030 season. They got all the way into the group stages by winning all their qualification games, basically, winning on away goals against AEK. But unfortunately, Tottenham, Benfica and Inter Milan were too strong for them. They must have finished bottom of their group there. They did. Season afterwards, finishing second, they must have got into the Champions League through that. Lost in the qualifying stages, though, went into the group stages of the Europa League. 3 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses against Villarreal, Bate and Newcastle. Was that good enough to put them in? It put them into the first knockout round, but they lost the final, unfortunately. Season afterwards, though, they went straight into the group stages of the Europa League, which must mean, obviously, whoever finishes third now must go straight into the Europa League group stage, which is pretty cool, like with the Champions League if you win the league, for example. 3 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses against Liverpool, Bordeaux and Zoya. Was enough to get them through, actually. I didn't think it would be, but they lost to Hoffenheim in the first knockout round, so unfortunate. Similar story in the next season, though, getting knocked out of the Champions League, getting knocked out of Champions League qualification places. Cluj, Arsenal and PAOK were the teams that they faced, and 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 draw and 2 losses, was enough to get them through into the knockout stages, but lost on away goals to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Season afterwards, they must have finished a little bit lower down, or perhaps this is when the reputation of the league started to drop down a little bit again. And actually, perhaps coming third wasn't enough to get you into the group stages, so they had to go to some qualification instead, but won all the qualification, won all but one of their group stage games against Fiorentina, a team that I cannot pronounce, and Standard Liège, which got them into the first knockout round, and they went all the way through to the second knockout round, but lost to Bayern 3-1 on aggregate. Season afterwards went into the Champions League group stage after beating Dinamo in the qualification, but a tough group of Monaco, Benfica and Bayern Munich, who knocked them out the season before in the Europa League, wasn't enough to get them through into the second stages of the Champions League. It wasn't enough to get them into the Europa League group stages. I thought that would have been enough to get them through, but apparently it wasn't. Season afterwards, though, a very good Champions League qualification run ended by Olympiacos with a 3-2 defeat, and instead went into Euro Cup Group I, winning all but one of their games, which was pretty good. Obviously qualified them against Sporting, which they won. Then they played CSKA Moscow and won that, actually. Then went against Borussia Mönchengladbach, won that in penalties, and then lost to Tottenham in the semi-finals. So that is the best performance we have seen from an Irish side so far, the semi-finals of the Euro Cup. That is incredible. Season afterwards, they got into the Champions League, but Man United, Porto and Atletico Madrid provided too strong of an opposition. They finished third, though, got themselves into the second knockout round, but that wasn't enough. They lost to Hoffenheim 3-2 on aggregate, and got into the Champions League once again for winning that division that year, and they've done pretty well. I say pretty well. They beat Olympiacos. I saw the green, then I saw the red, so we'll ignore the Champions League, and that is what they've done so far. Knocked out the Champions League, but St Pat's Athletic, semi-finals of the Europa Cup, that's incredible. Now, because there's a few more teams to look through, and if we want to do it in depth, it will take a long time. I'm very conscious that this is going to be quite a long video if I do that. So I'm going to just go through these teams quickly. If there's anything notable, like getting to a semi-final, for example, I'll show you that. But I think it's probably going to be more of the same, if not even that, because these teams aren't quite as strong as St Pat's or Cork City. So Dundalk is the first one I'll look through, but if anything comes up, I will let you know. Well, I've looked through Dundalk, and the best that they've done in the past 10 years is getting knocked out in the first round of the Euro Cup by Dinamo after getting through their group. So nothing too strong for Dundalk there, but you know, at least more teams are consistently getting into the group stages and getting into the second or later stages of the competition. Derry City were also relatively consistent in terms of coming in the top 5, but this was the best that they've done. That was the season we've just had, actually. They got to the group stages a few times, but this was the best result they had, 1 win and 2 draws. So Derry City, although they get in there a few times, mostly just lose all the games, so they're a bit of a bogey team, I think, to have. Funnily enough, actually, Bohemians, that their best season that they've had was the season we just had, getting into the Euro Cup. This is the first time they've got into the group stages, actually. But Slavia Prague, Fenerbahce and Bordeaux provided too strong of an opposition. Although 2 wins and a draw may put them third, which doesn't actually make a difference, does it? Because it's not the Champions League. So they'll be knocked out there, unfortunately. But the Bohemians did pretty well there. The 2036 season was the best year for Shamrock Rovers. It's the only time they've got into the group stages in the past 10 years. They came up against Krasnodar, Marseille and Lazio, but 2 wins, a draw and 3 losses was not good enough to get them into the next stage, where they didn't do anything in the 2037 season. So Shamrock Rovers, I've been disappointed with them. I thought they'd be a lot better, but they just haven't delivered. And the final team that did actually make the top 5 on a few occasions was Sligo Rovers. This was their best year, the 2036 season, where they had a decent run, actually, beating Ludogorets, Fenerbahce and Ludogorets once again, but lost twice to Tottenham and once to Fenerbahce. It wasn't enough to put them through the next year, but they got to the group stage once again, but they're the 2 times that they got to the group stages. So that's all the European action from these teams, and St Pat's Athletic getting to the semi-finals. is the best performance that we've seen so far. So I think what we can say though is that the Irish teams are doing pretty well for themselves. They're consistently getting into the group stages of competitions, which is great to see. And by looks of things, the only way is up for Irish football. Now, before we finish, we do want to look at Ireland as well as a nation. They're the 41st best country in the world at the moment, with Nathaniel Chalobah as their manager, which I think is very, very funny. But we'll look at their regions, obviously. So we'll look at the senior squad. See who's there. They're all going to be regions at this stage. Someone asked me, though, to put in the age. I forgot to do that completely. So I've also wanted to show you how to do it, because people have asked me how I do it as well. So I made this little custom view. You go to this little thing at the top here, you go to custom, and you can create a copy and then just do what you want or change things. But I go to customize current view, and because I want age in there, we have to go down to age, click on my little tick, press add, and that's in there as well. So age should be here somewhere. Apparently it's over here. I'm not quite sure why it's that far along. If we can get it to go, there we go, that's what we want to see. So we can see a lot of these players now. If we sort it by current ability, who's got the best current ability? It's Matt Upton, a 29-year-old player for Liverpool. Does he look any good? He looks pretty good, to be fair, actually. That's a very high current ability to have, especially for the Irish team. A goalkeeper, though, so that's very, very handy. How's his career gone? Actually, he's had a very good career. A Derry City regen, played an awful lot for St. Pat's Athletic before moving to Liverpool for 8 million, which is pretty good, to be fair. He clearly had a lot of loyalty to St. Pat's. Won them the league, actually. In fact, he must have been the keeper there for the first half of the season. He only played 18 games, so he must have been there until halfway through the season, which actually would have been summer for Liverpool, but it was middle of the season for them. So I guess that's when he moved. If we look at potential ability, who's got the best potential ability? It's Darragh Murphy for Newcastle. Now, he's a 24-year-old guy, 152 current ability at the moment, 25 million value, which is pretty cool. Central midfielder, looks pretty good mentally. His technicals could be better, I reckon. But as a midfielder, I'm pretty happy with that, if I was having him as my player. He played for St. Pat's Athletic, that was his regen. Moved to Sligo Rovers for a big fee of 12.5 million before being snapped up by Newcastle. Has been relatively ever-present. He's not quite been there all that long, actually. And this season, actually, it's only December now, but he's not really played too much. So Irish players perhaps not being looked at that much, perhaps been overlooked a little bit. If we look down at the under-21 squad, if we look at potential ability, 155 is the best there. Sam Kearney, he plays for St. Pat's Athletic. He's got very nice 20 determination, so he should be able to realise that potential. You know, he's determined, he's driven personality, so that means he's going to be working hard on training and things like that, which is good to see. But he's only just a brand new regen at St. Pat's. How old? He's only 17 years old. Geez, blimey, that is very good. He's very, very good for a 17-year-old then, and got a long way to go. So hopefully we'll see some more of him in the future, if we ever did anything in the future of this. And we look at the under-19 squad as well. The best one there is Johnny Walsh, 18 years old for Limerick FC. 139 is his potential, which is pretty good. Right back there, it looks alright, to be fair to him. He's a Limerick FC regen as well, but not played any games for them yet. So clearly not good enough for their first team, which is a bit unfortunate. You think he might go on loan somewhere, I don't know. They're the Irish team then. That's the players that we've got. And I think that's pretty interesting there. And that is it for this experiment then. We've done Ireland now. We've looked at what's going to happen. Remember, go back earlier on the video to vote in that as well, so you can make sure you get your vote counted. I'll see you tomorrow for another experiment based in America. It's slightly different, but it's going to be along the same lines. So if you've enjoyed today's video, make sure you do drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and I'll see you next time for more Football Manager action.